Well, good morning, all. Bishop Andy C. Luter here, and I want to welcome you to the weekly Clergy Roundtable that is coming to you today. And we have an exciting conversation for you. Listen, tell a neighbor, tell a friend that the weekly Clergy Roundtable is on the air, and I am joined by a number of guests today. I am thankful and grateful for the presence of each and every one of them. And we're going to go around the horn ever so quickly and invite them to say hello to you. Let's begin with my neighbor right here on Great Neck Road.
Good morning, everybody. Blessings. This is Bishop Walter Willie, pastor, founder of the Prayer Tabernacle Church of God in Christ, right here in Amityville, New York.
Thank you, sir. And from there, we're going to Yonkers, New York. Pastor
God
Scott.
bless you. This is Pastor Norman Scott. God bless you. This is Pastor Norman Scott, Rising Star Baptist Church, Jamaica, New York. We are grateful to be here with you once again. God bless.
And I'm sure most of you know that there has been a great deal of snow in the northern part of New York. I think Buffalo is still digging out of the same, but we're going to hear from Buffalo right now.
Grace and peace. Thank you so much, Bishop. Yeah, most of it has diminished and melted, but I still get a big pile of snow out in front of my house. So I will be pulling the snowblower out again. My name is Bishop Jeffrey Bowens. I'm the pastor of Love Alive Fellowship Full Gospel here in the Buffalo area, where we are the city of good neighbors.
Thank you, sir. And then the two wonderful women that we have as a part of our conversation, we're going out to Waterloo, Iowa to begin with.
Good morning. Good morning. I greet you in divine love. I bring you greetings from Koinonia Ministry, Full Gospel Baptist Church. We are people connected to God and people connected to each other. I am Bishop Helen Singster, and I'm so happy to be a part of this platform.
God bless you, Bishop. Happy to have you. And certainly, last but not least, is our overseer from out east here on Long Island.
God bless you and good morning, everyone. I am Overseer Diane Seaman, pastor of Good Samaritan Ministries in Port Jefferson and Center Reach, and I bring you greetings this morning and lots of Jesus joy and Jesus love.
God bless you. And I'm Andy C. Luter of the Hollywood Full Gospel Baptist Cathedral of Amityville, New York, and the Queen's Ministry of New York City. Listen, this is our weekly Clergy Roundtable, and we're so delighted that you are here and that you've joined us today. And today we're going to have a rather robust conversation. Our Bishop Walter Willie, who does such a fantastic job, he has been a paradigm shifter for us here on Long Island. When the pandemic hit and we found ourselves disconnected one from another, he had the ingenious idea of bringing us together virtually. And he has done so effectively that our connection virtually exceeds anything that we were doing in person prior to the pandemic. And so he convenes a virtual call, a Zoom call, every Saturday evening at 6 o'clock. It is one of the most sought after platforms that we have here on Long Island to be in conversation with one another. You know the saying that iron sharpens iron, and he has assembled us for that purpose. And he continues to bring to us niche personalities and persons with an expertise in a variety of areas. And he is convening a workshop at his church this coming Saturday, and I want him to talk about the workshop, and then I want all of us to talk about the topic that he is tackling in that workshop, because it is something that deserves our attention and warrants our conversation. So let me yield to Bishop Walter Willie to talk to us about what he is intending for this particular weekend and launch the conversation that we're going to have in that regard today. God bless you, Bishop.
Bishop, I hear a background noise before someone.
God bless everybody this morning. Good to see everybody again. My heart desire that our people would know, prepare for themselves every aspect of life. So every year at our church, we put together what we call a workshop on planning your life. There are three components in planning your life. One is the assurance package. You need life insurance we call it life insurance. Second part is we said you need a lawyer to prepare a will or power of attorney, those areas. The third part is the funeral director will come and share with us how to prepare and prepared funeral directors of between all types of funeral preparation that make your burden easier for families. So these three components are very crucial, important for human family. It should be given to our people so it make our life easier, and it's a part of life. Death is a part of life, must be addressed and dealt with, and the more you prepare for it, the easier the burden it is for families to contend with, especially when these things happen to all of us.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for that, Bishop. And I will confess that here of late, in the last couple of years, I have been more in touch with my own mortality and the circumstances of death than I have been at any other time of my life. Since 2019, there's been the loss of my father, the loss of my son. Both of my sisters, Rosalind and Tanya, have lost their husbands in the last year and a half. And so death seemingly is a constant companion. And so I want to open up the microphones today and allow all of us to talk about the reality of death, how we deal with grief and mourning, and how we need to anticipate those circumstances and how we need to respond to those circumstances. As a pastor and all of us serve in that capacity, I am sure we are aware of families who find themselves in a straitjacket, find themselves in a struggle because planning had not been done in advance for this eventuality. So I want to kind of open up the microphones today so that we all can talk about this topic, because I'm sure that we all have our own perspective and our own experiences in this regard. So panel, we're in your hands today. Whoever would like to go
All right,
first.
good morning. Let me, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Great.
Can you hear me? All
Yes,
right,
sir.
great. Bless you. Bless you. Thank you so much. All right, let me start off. 1985, I was 24 years old. As a matter of fact, in this very month of January, we had the tragic news of losing my dear mother. 1985, and Bishop, that was to all of us, to my family, my sisters, my brother, and to my dad at that particular time. And although there was some preparations in place. The whole matter was my mother was preparing us in case something happened to my father, not knowing that the Lord was going to move and take her away from us. And he took her away so suddenly that we were not prepared for it. And then once that took place, my dad had got us together, my sisters and my brother and I and our families, and said, listen, we can't let this happen again. We need to be prepared for what has to happen. And he shared some things with us that we were not aware that were in place, and it made our life the better. So you need to have those things in place. In our church, my congregation right now, listen, whatever you've got going on, make sure that this is in order before you leave, before you check out, before God calls your name.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that, Pastor.
Well, I think that the church as a whole, we play such a major role in the lives of God's people, and that we have to be not only prepared spiritually, but we have to be prepared personally, professionally, and practically. And so I really appreciate what Bishop Willie had shared with us and how important it is for the churches to be balanced in a lot of areas, because unfortunately, the emphasis is not made in the church about having insurance policy, having a plan for the future, having portfolio. Um, those type of things, I think, is absolutely critical. And I'm glad that it's brought to the surface, because I mean, there's no better time than to start these type of things than in the new year. You get a fresh start, you get a new beginning, and so we have to meet the needs of the church. The church is so essential and necessary, and just getting people to heaven these days is not the full measure of what ministry is to bring. The word of the Lord tell us that your whole mind, soul, and body be prepared. So we want to share with them and bring in people that have skill sets, that has that type of background and knowledge, in order to meet the needs of the people, that at least to say that we have those type of things going on, whether it's in a summit or a conference or something to that nature, to be able to impact the people so it won't be such a strain on them when family members are transitioned, and so forth. So I think that those type of things are critical, and I'm glad that we are discussing it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Boy, it's awfully quiet. Okay. And it's amazing. We're talking in a forum and to other people, so we cannot be silent when it comes to death, because we have a lot to say at the funeral. Number one, let me just say that the hardest thing for us to actualize is that it does not begin when we get 30, 40, 50, and 80. It begins when we have our babies. What we don't do is insure our children. From the time your child is born, which, God bless Bishop Willie, my grandson will be talking about, and most insurance companies, a lot of them do have, but there are companies that will insure your children. When my kids were born, I didn't even think of it because I was young and crazy, but Gerber Life, for 1 cent, had insurance on your children. We don't, my baby's not going to die. There's nothing wrong with my baby, but babies do die. Little children die. We need to think of our children. You can take the policy out for your grandchildren. I took one out on mine until my children took it over. And once they got settled, they took over their life insurance policies and covered themselves for them. Ironically enough, my grandson is now talking about life stages and life planning, and that's his business. And I thank Bishop Willie for allowing him to come in there, so he and or member of his staff will be there to talk about how to plan prior, not just for your funeral, but for your life. And you do plan for end of life, but it begins before then. People don't understand that life insurance policies on our children, you can take out 2, and one of them can turn into $25,000 that you don't have to struggle as much with your children going to college, or if they choose not to go, helping them in another area. That money is there, and it costs pennies on the dollar. It's not expensive at all. When it comes to people being married, I like to say now that I'm older, we need to stop being so much in love and be in life, because we, when our boo dies, we sit there and we cry and we boo-hoo, but we still don't know how we're going to bury him. So we need to plan for that for those of us who work. And I had discussed this with Bishop Luter and Bishop Willie, and I'm not sure it got totally understood by everybody, but I'm going to try and do this again so that we understand. Those of you, stop it, Bishop Willie, who work for the state, who have to work for the state and or county, you get to choose who you're going to leave your pension to. I chose to leave my pension to my children. My children were in the early 20s then. And my husband is like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Okay, we're going to have this discussion. Number one, my children are young. If I die and you die 10 to 20 years later, that money's gone. If you have to go into a nursing home, they will take your pension money, They will take Social Security. They will take whatever you have, including your house, if you're not careful, to pay for that, which is what a trust is for. However, when it comes to pension, let me stick with pension.
While you're doing while you're doing that, somebody's television is on and it's most distracting.
No, I turned mine all the way off. I'm pretty sure. Let me just check mine. Nope, I turned it off. I did. I turned it off. So when we get down to our pensions, we can delegate who that money goes to. And I chose to leave my pension money to my children, who was their inheritance. And if we want to do it biblically, as I was discussing with Bishop Luder, we are to leave an inheritance for our children's children. That money goes to my children if something happened to me, so that if my husband ever, in surviving me, had to go to a nursing home, we wouldn't have to beg for things for him to have. My children wouldn't have to dig into their pockets and go broke providing for their father. That pension money would provide for that. And after he's gone, that pension money goes to my children for them until the day they die. So we have to not just think now, we need to think long term about how we strategize our money. And my only regret is that it took me so long to figure it out. But because we think about our spouses and leaving money to our spouses, and all of that needs to be in place, roundtable. But our pensions, for those of us who are blessed enough to get to a pension and leave it to someone, have to plan. Even for us, if we go into a nursing home, that's somebody that we leave it to has to be young enough and viable enough to be able to provide for us in that place. So we're going to leave it to someone who's going to be in the nursing home with us. Neither one of us will have anything. It's just, it's really logical when you stop and think about it, but we don't think about it. It took me a while to think about it. So those things all being said, in our planning, we need to plan for life, and I should like to say life towards death, because it's end of stage living, whatever that stage is. When you're over 30, 40, and 50, you've lived longer than you have yet to live in most cases. So you need to plan for the remainder of that life and for how you're going to die. I'm sitting here talking to all of you. I can't even imagine death right now. I really can't. There's just so much going through my head in my life. I can't even think about it. Doesn't mean I won't drop dead. So the power of attorney is in place, and our children don't want to listen to it. So what I did is I made up, it's not a portfolio, I just made up a folder and put all the paperwork and gave one to each one of my now grown grandchildren, to my son's wife, to my son, to each one of my sons, and to my nephew. That's who it includes. They each have a copy. All they have to do is read it. And it's in the lawyer's office. They each have a power of attorney. In case one loses it, the other one's got it, and I have a copy. Power of attorney is absolutely necessary. Absolutely. And I'm going to say this publicly, if I may. We spend a lot of time in tears in our life for one reason or another. And I still am so thankful for my mother's advice. Cry later. Get to the bank. They will tie up every dime you have. It may sound cold, but if somebody dies at 5 o'clock in the morning, stay awake until 9 and get to the bank. Then you can plan, and then you can have a cry. We spend so much time wrapped up in our feelings that we don't think. And even, the Bible says, think on these things. We have to think and stop crying. We need to wipe our faces and get up and do what we have to do. And I believe that serves God best, because we know, even though I, for one, can't imagine dying, that we're going to leave here. We're going to leave sooner or later. And I told God I could just picture being caught up in the rapture, because I can't imagine anything else, but it is what it is. That's just my foolishness or reality, whatever it is. But if we don't plan for life on this earth and for leaving, when we get ready to go on vacation, we think about the things we're going to pack in our suitcase. We plan for the weather, we plan for the colors, we plan for the events. So I fail to understand why, even if we need help doing it, and anybody that needs help, I do it quite frequently to help people. I've done more funerals than ever, not just the funerals. And it's not about just the church, because the people in church, 9 times out of 10, it's their relatives who have not planned what they come to the church for. And it's very difficult. And our congregations are not necessarily going to bury us. We need to plan our own stuff. We have that power, and we need to use it. Planning is everything, and it has to be purposeful. Just like we plan and pack for a vacation, we need to plan and pack for our life. And end of life is life.
Well, thank you for that, Overseer Diane Seaman show this morning. I think we were waiting to hear from you, Bishop Caesar.
Good morning. I came from a family that really, if anything, they were insurance poor because they believed in everyone having being insured, and but part of that, and I used to sell insurance and that too. But part of that in estate planning, you have to know what type of insurance to get. You know, many of our folks had whole life, and were paying large sums of money for a small amounts of insurance. Well, then we had to educate our people in term or perma-term insurance where they could have more coverage and pay less. But we truly believed in estate planning and things like that, and also teaching our people about what the average cost of a burial, and many of them have pre-burial. Um, they've taken care, but then there's some things that you have to add to that too. So we do spend time talking about that. Um, I probably have buried most of my family, and I'm one of those. Every grandchild, when they were born, they got they got a life insurance on them. Period, and and that's the way my mother was. She made sure, and my mom and dad made sure that everyone was covered. But we also we spent time talking about the process, and I I do that with our church. We do it. I was part of a ministerial alliance that actually had a fund to set up to help people for their burial, and part of that was good, but part of it was not, because we enable people, and I think it's important that you show them how to get the right types of insurance, talk to them about burial. A lot of people, frown on cremation and things like that, but there's so many different things that they don't know about, and we try to educate them in that. Also, with the power of attorney, I think people have to understand that power of attorney, you have to be careful and make sure that you've got that covered right too, because there's people that have gone in, they don't really follow the instructions on the power of attorney, and they're supposed to, but we find that sometimes siblings get a little upset when they're not the one that's in charge or whatever, and so you have to really be specific of how you uh, delegate that power of attorney. Also, I think it's important that something slipped my mind right there, that each state is a little bit different uh, on their process, but I think it's also important that we talk. When I think when my husband passed, I didn't realize that. Well, since he passed, I had things in order, but then I also needed to go back and take inventory again of uh, what was the state, and then change beneficiaries and things like that. Because a lot of times you may have someone on there that's already gone on to glory or whatever, but you have to constantly do this, and it's not once you're older. It has to start early. We just had a young lady the other day that I remember baptizing, but she died at 41 years old, and we just found out it was meningitis. You don't. So you have to have things in order, young and old, and even down to where people have set and programmed out how they want their program even to be handled. Who's to bring the message, or if you want a private program or what. When I was in college, my undergrad, we did courses on death and dying. So everything I learned, I tried to project that and teach others. And so setting up your obituary, all those things, I think it's important that you do these things. And all of that's part of estate planning. We have trust, understand what the trust is that you have, how it's going to affect you tax wise, things like that. I think it's important. Pensions, I agree with everything that's been said. But and most states like my Iowa, you can, whoever you designate to be part of your beneficiary, or to take your pension, or how you want to do it, they have to they have to go along with that. So you have to have a good attorney, a good um, trust attorney, a pension, someone that really knows, maybe specialized in that particular area. And so I think it's important that we do it as our culture. A lot of times that doesn't happen. We don't like to uh, make out wills, but you can write your will and have it certified. But a lot of times we don't want to talk about living wills and things like that. So it's important that you do this. And I've been talking with my grandchildren and things, but we make sure that everyone's insured. And my mother was that way, and she kept that insurance on the boys and everyone. Even after they were grown and could take care of herself, she was like, I better hold on to this because I don't know. But they paid lots of money for whole life insurance, where we have a lot of different options now.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Bishop Willie, I want to go back to you because Bishop Caesar just made a comment that I think is so accurate and so true, and that is that we are, when it comes to estate planning, but when it comes to death planning, we're a little slow in this area, and we're a bit hesitant to do what needs to be done to properly prepare for such an eventuality. My contention, and I'm always delving into history, my contention has been that the dark shadow of slavery left us inept to some degree in terms of planning for our eventual future. And I think that there's a lingering, haunting presence of our past that goes all the way back to slavery time, when life was so uncertain for us that we did not make a priority preparation for our departure from the earth realm. Can you and others talk about why it is there is such a hesitancy and a resistance to dealing with this matter in most of our families?
The fear of death affects the human mind. And the Bible said that death is an enemy. So when you hear about death right away, people say, you know what? I want to stay away from it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. But yet, the Bible tells you that in men's and women's be business minded, be balanced. So if you don't have your house in order, then what happened, life is not in order, you're going to expect some calamity at the end. So we as Christians got to inform our people why it is important to make some wise decisions about what we call life, death, because we don't, it's going to affect the family left behind to deal with issues because we didn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Other nationalities deal with it all the time. We as African Americans don't want to talk about it because of the stigma that's been put on us for the last, like you said, Bishop, for centuries. But now it must be dealt with. Otherwise, if we don't deal with it, it's going to keep on hurting families, destroying families, and breaking up families.
Yeah.
I would say that was good, Brother Willie, because I think that you would think that people would teach these type of things to the children in their formative years or when they're in school, because oftentimes, as Bishop Luter had alluded to, a lot of our descendants wasn't aware of a lot of these things, and so they could not pass them down to the next generation. I think during the Reconstruction period, there was a time where we had our own insurance companies, we had our own burial sites, different areas that we had prior to after slavery. I think we were trying to be independent, so forth and so on, and for whatever reason we got scattered and these things became less of a focus or less important. Who knows? Or it wasn't talked about around the dinner table. No one brought these type of things up. I don't know if we thought we were going to live forever or have immortality, whatever the case. But nonetheless, I think that it is critical that talking about wills and so forth and so on. One of the things that have occurred to me is that people of Caucasian persuasion oftentimes are focused on these type of things, and they leave a will, and oftentimes they put the church in the will as well, and that's how many of the churches are still bountiful and prosperous, even though they may have only a few members. I put in with my insurance company something called Key Man Insurance, and I with that Key Man Insurance, the church will, if something happened to me, God forbid, the church would be okay for a season, and as well as my family. So I think that these things are critical, that we pay attention to our wills, we pay attention to our healthcare proxy, pay attention to our pensions, our retirements. I mean, all of that is just a part of life. And I think that emphasis should be placed on it a lot more, so that, we not only would go through a grieving stage, but we won't have to worry about how we're going to pay the bills or how we're going to take care of our family and bury them properly. So if we do these things now, we won't have to worry about them later.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? We have maybe about 6 or 7 minutes before we close out. Additional commentary?
I think it's important that you review your insurance policies on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And even, like I said, I don't know what I can't, like your, oh gee, it just left my mind. Do an inventory of what you have and the value of those things. And those things need to be reviewed on a regular basis, because sometimes that has changed, and we may have made a will out or put a value on our properties in that maybe 10, 15 years ago, and some of those things have changed. So I think it's important that you review and take inventory of what you have and do it on a regular basis. One of the things I know with us as a people, we just don't, but it's your own option. We don't believe in cremation and all those things, but I think we need to look at those options, especially people that don't have any insurance, because we deal with a lot of people in our churches, or either people that in the community that come to the church, and we need to understand, because of what that means, or direct cremation, or because now they have, you can view and still have that done, different things, but we need to look at the cost of those things, and really, and that might be a wake-up call to say, okay, I don't want that, so I need to get the proper insurance so I can have the assurance that will happen. Because if you're saved, that doesn't really, well, anyway, I won't get into that, but those things we need to learn about, and pre-burial, what that really means, because there's still finances, things that you have to come out of your pocket for, even with, so I think that was all I was thinking of.
I guess we got to get motivated to do it, but even buying a plot, and buying a burial site, and taking care of those things now. You can do it now and have a certificate that says, when I'm gone, that this is where I would be at, and so forth and so on. So I think that those type of things are, wow, imperative and necessary, and you know, and we should put it high on the priority list. Don't procrastinate. I think that is very pivotal and very key. That and as Bishop Singster had said, have a review of it, you know, annually or quarterly or whatever you need to do to make sure that all of your financial things are in order. I have gone and sat down with some families, and somebody done passed away that they didn't expect to pass away, and they were young, and I sat down and went to go pray with the family, and they sitting in the middle of the floor with paper scattered from here to kingdom come, trying to figure out if this person had insurance. So I think that we need to set aside those things and make sure that they are able to be obtained when needed. I think that is very, very important as well.
And Bishop Bone, you said an important thing a little while ago about many of our people need to invest in churches.
Right.
A lot of times you have insurance policy, leave the church a few dollars so it can keep up things for the betterment of the community. We don't think about our churches enough as people, and we should.
Indeed, indeed. Well, this has taken up a great deal of our time, and we certainly want to thank you for yours. I am Andy C. Luter of the Hollywood Full Gospel Baptist Cathedral of Amityville, New York. I am joined today by Bishop Walter Willie, Pastor Norman Scott, Overseer Diane Seaman, Bishop Helen Singster, and Bishop Jeffrey Bowens. We're here every week right around this time, and we invite you to tell a neighbor, tell a friend that we are indeed here. Do know that until next time, God loves you, we love you, we look forward to seeing you soon, and therefore, beloved, we charge you to go in peace, we charge you to go in joy, we charge you to go in love, and we charge you to go in happiness. For the author of the same most certainly goes with you.